In the country of arts, Oriana, a princess is expected to master a discipline. For Rose Oriana, that discipline was the sword. Despite her talent in many arts, she chose the way of the blade, a path her people considered barbaric. She left her homeland for the Spell Sword Academy, driven by a profound goal. The memory of a beautiful, graceful swordsmanship she once witnessed was forever engraved in her heart, a secret she shared with no one. It was this vision that she aspired to achieve herself. Now, with her father coming for the God of War festival, she felt the pressure mounting. If her fencing didn't earn his approval, she would be ordered home, away from the life she'd chosen and the person her heart now belonged to. She had no need for a fiancé. Elsewhere, the city buzzed with anticipation for the festival. Cid Kagenoh, master of shadows and mob characters, could barely contain his glee. Coo, the time is at hand. The God of War festival, a grand tournament where the strongest warriors from every nation gathered to prove their might, was the perfect stage. Standing dramatically on a rooftop, he declared that the fated day had arrived to fulfill a long-held dream. He envisioned the perfect trope. A mysterious, unassuming weakling enters the arena, mocked by the crowd. Then, as he reveals a sliver of his power, their jeers turn to stunned silence. Finally, they are left gasping in awe, desperately wondering who this incredible fighter could possibly be. This glorious fantasy had to become reality, and for that he needed a disguise. He arrived at a lavish Mitsugoshi establishment where Gamma and the other members of Shadow Garden greeted him with breathless reverence. Lounging on a throne fit for a king, Cid made his request. He wanted to participate in the festival incognito. Gamma was perplexed. "Hiding your identity?" she asked, unable to fathom why their lord would need such a thing. Cid, reveling in the manufactured mystery, offered no explanation. He couldn't reveal his true, deeply personal reasons to anyone. The effect was immediate. Gamma was horrified at her own audacity. She remembered the Lindworm incident, how none of them had grasped his true intentions, how they had foolishly clung to their own plans, while he operated on a level of genius they couldn't comprehend. To question him now was an unforgivable lapse in judgment. His mind was simply beyond their reach. She bowed deeply. "Please forgive me. It shall be as you wish." She immediately summoned Nu, their resident expert in transformation. Nu, holding a jar of special slime makeup, promised a complete alteration of his face and features. She asked what kind of appearance he desired. Cid's request was simple and profoundly weird. "Make me look as weak as possible," he said, suggesting she model him after someone who might trip over their own feet. Nu found the request difficult. Gamma, ever eager to assist, suggested using a real person's profile to avoid suspicion. As if on cue, she promptly tripped over nothing, sending papers flying in a spectacular, uncoordinated heap. Cid had found his perfect reference. Mortified but recovering, Gamma presented the file for one Jemina Sénon, a disgraced noble. The man was an indolent youth with no skills, who had been disinherited and later went missing. Perfect. Nu popped open her jar and got to work. Her tools, a jar of black goop, scissors, and other implements, looked more suited for a butcher's shop than a makeup artist's table. A short while later, she stood proudly beside her creation, a blood-splattered cleaver and hammer in hand. The transformation was complete. Cid, now Jemina, hunched his back to a pathetic 45-degree angle, admiring his new, weak-looking persona. Gamma presented him with cheap, shoddy equipment to complete the look. It was perfect. Jemina made his way to the Colosseum. The registration hall was a sea of brawny, intimidating warriors, the perfect audience for his act. He scanned the room, inwardly gloating. A drunk with a rough face? Still not as weak as him. A nerdy-looking guy with arms like tree trunks? Pathetic, but still stronger-looking. He was, without a doubt, the most pitiful specimen in the room. His plan was unfolding flawlessly. A voice cut through his thoughts. A female warrior named Anne Rose approached him with a look of concern. "You're just asking to get yourself killed," she warned, putting a hand on his shoulder. She told him she could spot a rookie from a mile away and that he was in over his head. This was it, the perfect opportunity to establish his character as a weakling with an unearned, cheeky attitude. He brushed her off with practiced coolness. Might want to stop judging people based on appearance. Anne Rose was stunned by his audacity. Before she could respond, a massive, bald man with an eye patch named Quentin stepped in, clapping a hand on Jemina's shoulder. Quentin, a festival regular, sneered that he'd seen plenty of small-timers like him, and that he should go home. Jemina walked away, tossing a casual insult over his shoulder. "I'm stronger than you, at least." Quentin's cronies howled with laughter at the slight. Enraged, Quentin grabbed him by the collar, snarling, "Now, who's stronger than me?" Jemina just smirked back. Quentin threw a clumsy punch. Jemina dodged and landed a quick jab, thinking how amateurish these fighters were without their swords. Too slow. But he couldn't fight back. He had to maintain his pathetic hunch and take the beating. Why? Because right now, I'm the weakest person in here. A fist connected solidly with his face. The crowd roared with laughter as Quentin and his thugs beat the small fry on the ground. Quentin loomed over him, taunting him for not even being able to lift his arms. "Enough!" Anne Rose's voice cut through the commotion. She grabbed Quentin's wrist, stopping his next blow. "If you want to continue, I'll be your opponent." She threatened to call the authorities and have him disqualified. Grumbling, Quentin backed off. As the bullies walked away, Jemina got to his feet, muttering that it was a joke. Anne Rose turned, surprised. She knelt beside him, apologizing for not intervening sooner. She pleaded with him to reconsider participating, warning him that the real fights would be far worse. "It's not an issue," he replied, looking up. He stood, wiping a bit of blood from his lip. "It's been a while since I tasted blood." Anne Rose stared in disbelief. He had taken a brutal beating, yet there wasn't a single bruise on his face. As he turned and walked away into the crowd, she called after him, desperate. "Wait, what's your name?" Without looking back, he answered, "Jemina." She could only stand there, stunned, repeating the name. Later, Cid sat on a bench, enjoying a McDonald's sandwich. He took a bite. Hell yeah! Nailed it. The plan was a resounding success. He pictured it perfectly, the weakling scorned by the crowd, while a perceptive few noticed something was off. He had masterfully manipulated the audience's expectations, setting the stage for his glorious reveal. He smiled, looking at his registration card, eager for the first heat. This was going to be good. Suddenly, Rose Oriana was leaning over the railing behind him, chiding him for his carefree attitude. He greeted her casually, and she noted his McDonald's bag. She beamed, saying how delicious their food was, and that she had gone with Alexia and Natsume. Cid was surprised to hear the three were friends. Rose called Alexia a kind girl, a statement Cid found utterly hilarious. Then her demeanor shifted to one of grave seriousness. She confessed she was going to meet her fiancé. Seeing Cid's confused look, she explained that she had disappointed many people with her selfish choices. She feared she might do so again, but this time it wasn't for herself. "Whatever happens to me, I hope that you'll believe in me." That was all she wished for. She turned to leave. "Hey!" Cid called out. He tossed her the half-eaten sandwich in its bag. "Take it. You should relax a bit." A genuine, heartbreakingly beautiful smile crossed her face as she clutched the bag. "Thank you, Cid." The next day at the academy, Cid strolled down the hall, chewing on a pen. He mused that the student president had been acting strangely yesterday. He figured she was just hungry and hoped she enjoyed the sandwich. His door burst open. His friend Hayoro stood there, waving a newspaper. The news was shocking. The student president, Rose Oriana, was on the run. She had stabbed her fiancé.